Hey guys, what's up? Welcome back to the channel. Welcome back to yet another video. Sorry, due to a skin condition, I could not make videos for a while. I was sick, but now I'm back and I can make videos again. So today's video is going to be Crocodile versus T-Rex. And before we begin our analysis, I would like to set two primary premises we are making for this. No, we are not doing open weights. We are not doing their actual weights because we know that the T-Rex was massive in comparison to any modern day crocodilian. We are doing something of similar size. So either we will shrink down the T-Rex to the size of a modern day crocodilian, such as, let's say, saltwater crocodile, or we will take a crocodilian which were comparable in size to the T-Rex, like the Deinosuchus. Second premise is where this fight is taking place. This fight will be taking place in dry land. We are not doing it in the water because in the water the crocodile will have an overwhelming advantage. So we are doing it on dry land. With those two out of the way, let's first look into their general anatomy before we start discussing who would win and their win cons and the likelihood of those win cons coming true. Both of these are famous for having tremendously powerful bite muscles. They are extremely powerful biters, and one thing you will notice is both their skulls are rather wide and rather robust to handle those extreme forces when they bite down on their prey. Now, it's pretty obvious that they did hunt differently despite having extreme bite forces, but we can see somewhat of a similarity that they both have conical peg-like teeth, though the T-Rex had somewhat of a little bit of a serrations at the back end because it was also shearing prey while crunching down on their bones, whereas the extreme bite force of a crocodile is usually used to grab prey in their inescapable grasp. And at the same time, you can see the skull shape is a little bit different, where the crocodilian skull is more wide and long, whereas the T-Rex skull is shorter but deeper. And you can also see this when we do a side-by-side comparison, that these two are about the same weight, but the difference you notice is the crocodilian skull is nearly twice as long as the T-Rex skull. And why is that relevant? Well, I will explain it to you soon enough. One thing to note is that whenever a predator has a longer snout and opens its jaws, it will have a bigger gape. Even though the angle at which the jaw is opened, the gape also depends on the length of the skull. You can see in this comparison, even though both of them are opening their jaws at about the same angle, the gape for the crocodile is much bigger due to this jaw being much longer. I have taken this same thing, mirrored it over here, and you can notice that this gape is much smaller than this gape, because this usually means that longer length means a wider gape. Why is it relevant? It is relevant because the wider the gape is, the bigger a target the predator can grab. So even if an animal has a decently wide jaw gape, for example, let's say the T-Rex or some other theropods, an animal with a longer jaw will still have a bigger jaw gape because simply the jaw is bigger. Next, once we have analyzed their biting, we need to also look into their defenses because these animals don't have much of an auxiliary weaponry. And in terms of defenses, there is a very clear winner here, and that is the crocodile. Because T-Rexes, as impressive as they were, did not have much of an impressive defense. Their skin was nothing to really be impressed by. It was just common reptilian skin with somewhat of a scales. Given this animal was extremely large and lived in very warm climates, it's safe to assume this thing did not have thick plumage of feathers either. So nothing very special in terms of defense, at least for the T-Rex. On the other hand, if we look at the crocodile has probably one of the best defenses in the animal kingdom. The crocodiles have osteoderms, which literally means bone skins. They have these little nodules of bones that cover their entire body, except for maybe the underbelly. And they're bone, essentially. They're the hardest thing an animal can have on their body. The literal bones. And it's not a continuous singular bone like turtles have, so it's a segmented bone, which means even against crushing pressure, while this armor can move and flex, it won't break. Unlike a turtle shell, which was solid, and if you apply enough pressure, it can break. So, yes, crocodiles definitely take the cake when it comes to defense. So, after watching the defense part, let's look at what are the plausible winning conditions for the crocodilian. One thing to note here is crocodilians have more flexibility than the T-Rex, simply because T-Rexes had these very specific ribs which continued up to their hips, which means they couldn't turn as much of their head as a crocodile can, because crocodiles don't have these ribs. You can see in these various pictures that they don't have ribs continuing up to their hips. And this is why we get to see crocodiles turning in these insane angles to the point where they can attack something near the base of their tail. In contrast, T-Rexes could not turn as much. So definitely the flexibility would give the crocodile a broader range of attack, where, or we could say broader zone of attack, where the crocodile can land a bite than the T-Rex can near its head. And another thing to notice is that the crocodile can actually reach certain vital areas of a similar sized T-Rex. I have overlapped this T-Rex with this buffalo to show that the crocodile can absolutely grab animals of this size while being on dry land. Now, another thing to note is, where can the crocodile attack? And one thing to note here is, yes, the T-Rex is taller, but the T-Rex still has two legs. And I think the crocodile's main objective will be to attack the legs. And do crocodiles do that? Absolutely they do. Here we see that against other predators like leopards, they do grab the legs. Even other prey animals like wildebeest, they also grab legs. They do have a tendency to grab legs of taller animals. Not only this, they also can turn their head sideways to grab certain objects. So obviously the crocodile has enough flexibility of its skull, as well as enough flexibility of its body to turn around and bite down on the leg of a T-Rex. Here we see the leopard is being grabbed. Here we see a watermelon is being crushed. And this is where we get to see the first and most likely win con from the crocodile, is wherever the T-Rex is trying to bite, the T-Rex's legs will be very close to the crocodile's jaws. And we know that if a T-Rex is being grabbed at the leg, it can be pretty devastating, because crocodiles have a rather powerful move, which is the death roll. And death roll can absolutely break a T-Rex's leg, if not flip the T-Rex over completely. Earlier in my videos, I have shown how much force it takes to tip over a T-Rex. Crocodiles can basically death roll each other. So two similar sized crocodiles, as you can see in this video, are death rolling each other, which means if the crocodile does manage to grab the leg of the T-Rex, it can absolutely flip the T-Rex over and make it fall to the ground. And here is a brief study, or you can say calculation, on how much force it takes to flip over a 12-ton T-Rex. And if you want more details on this, I have shown this calculation in more details in my big cats versus T-Rex videos. But another thing, the death roll can not only flip over the T-Rex, it can also break bones, which means if the theropod does break one of its hind legs, the theropod is dead because it can't get back up on one leg. The way T-Rexes were built, or any other theropods were built, once one of their hind legs were compromised, they are as good as dead because they can't stand up anymore, they can't move from the spot. They're basically sitting ducks, which the crocodile can just go and munch on. Not to mention the tremendous bite force of the crocodile alone probably would be enough to crunch the leg of a T-Rex. So the primary win con for the crocodile is to bite the leg of the T-Rex, crack it or death roll it to the point where the T-Rex is incapacitated, and then simply going in and grabbing the head or grabbing any other vital portions, death rolling and killing it. Now, obviously in this situation, if the T-Rex does fall down and lose one of its legs, it will be rather easy for the crocodile to simply grab its head, grab any of the vital body parts, and rip them apart slowly, and giving the T-Rex quite the agonizing death. However, let's look at the winning conditions for the T-Rex, which a lot of my subscribers and friends have pointed out. A lot of people have pointed out that because jaguars, which also have a very powerful bite force, can subdue similar sized caimans, probably the T-Rex can do the same way in the same method. There are quite a few problems with these. First of all, jaguars are extremely powerful for their size, and they have very highly specialized teeth to do this. They have long piercing canines which are specially designed to puncture the back of the skull of a caiman to kill it. And additionally, in this particular GIF, you can notice the jaguar is using its forelimbs to subdue the crocodilian before landing the bite. That's quite the problem for a T-Rex to do, given how small its arms were. Not only this, larger crocodilians are so wide and so well armored, a T-Rex simply doesn't have any place to bite down on the crocodile like the jaguar can. So in this particular situation, sure, the T-Rex can bite onto the legs, but we have seen crocodiles survive without legs, and to be honest, biting down on a crocodile's leg would really not hinder it all that much as especially a T-Rex would be hindered if its leg got bitten down by a crocodile. And doing this is extremely risky because in either scenario, the T-Rex will be in the perfect position to be grabbed by the crocodile. So this particular condition is very unlikely to work. And because one, the forelimbs are not present, two, the T-Rex doesn't have the correct dentition to grab onto a crocodile like a jaguar can, and thirdly, the T-Rex simply doesn't have the forelimbs to subdue the crocodilian first before landing such a bite. Some people have argued they might be able to use their hind limbs. The problem with that, however, is against a thrashing crocodile, a T-Rex's singular hind limb would not be able to pin that thing down. T-Rex's hind limbs were not like raptors, so probably not going to work the same way. Another win con people have pointed out is stamina. Now, yes, crocodilians do have a weakness that they are cold-blooded and they can have blood acidification. So if there is extreme stress and extreme amounts of physical exertion, the lactic acid buildup can eventually kill a crocodilian. However, there is a caveat to this. It means extreme stress, meaning extremely strenuous physical activity. Not just a T-Rex running around a crocodile, but a T-Rex continuously trying to grapple with the crocodile. And this is where we see that the extreme agility of the crocodile shows up. We can see in this particular clip that a rather large crocodile is agile enough to keep 3 lions at bay. Now remember, these are lions. These are far more agile than a T-Rex would be at this size. They can jump away from the lunging crocodile, and still they're unable to subdue this creature. A T-Rex in this situation simply can't get close enough to the crocodile to bite it, which will cause the crocodile to exert itself without being grabbed by the crocodile itself. If 3 lions couldn't do it, a singular T-Rex simply is nowhere near agile enough to do something like this. So no, this condition also isn't very plausible. With all of this out of the way, I think that the crocodilian wins in this particular scenario, and with relatively medium difficulty. It will have some challenges, but with relatively medium difficulty, the crocodile would win. Let me know in the comments what you guys think of this verdict. Like the video, comment, share, subscribe, and let me know what should I make the next video about. Once again, sorry for not making videos for so long. I was sick. And as always, muhahaha.